James is a young man. He works in a very big company. James is very smart and he works hard. Many people respect him because he is good at his job. James has a problem. His father is not happy with him. His father thinks James is not doing enough for the family. This makes James feel sad. He wants to make his father proud. One day, James meets a woman named Diep. She is kind and smart. James starts to like her. Diep is also interested in James, but she is careful. She does not want to rush into love. They start talking more and getting to know each other. James feels happy when he is with Diep. He feels like she understands him. He also feels stronger when she talks to him. James begins to think that maybe Diep can help him with his problems. After James walked away from Diep, everything around him felt empty. The air outside was cold, but his heart felt even colder. As he got into his car, he looked back one last time at the small coffee shop where they had just spoken. He thought he would see Diep looking out the window, but she wasn't there. She didn't come to the door. She didn't run after him. She just stayed inside, silent. That silence hurt James more than words ever could. When James got home, the big house felt quiet. His mother and father were sitting in the living room. His younger brother was playing a video game. His sister was talking on the phone. They were all busy with their own lives. No one noticed that James looked sad. No one asked him if he was okay. He walked up the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavy. When he entered his room, he sat on the bed and held his head in his hands. The pain in his heart felt sharp. He tried to sleep, but his mind kept thinking about Diep. He remembered her smile, her soft voice, and the way she used to hold his hand. He thought about how she looked at him earlier that day with tears in her eyes. That look kept playing in his mind again and again. He had chosen to leave her, but now he wasn't sure if it was the right choice. The next morning, James went to work. As the CEO, he had a lot of responsibilities. He had meetings, emails, and reports to read. But no matter how hard he tried to focus, he couldn't stop thinking about Diep. Every few minutes, he would check his phone, hoping to see a message from her. But the screen stayed empty. No message came. Diep was silent. Days passed and Diep didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't even like his social media posts. For James, her silence was like a loud echo. It filled every part of his life. When he sat at his desk, he saw her face in his mind. When he went to lunch, he remembered how they used to eat together and laugh. Even when he closed his eyes, he dreamed of her. One evening, James went for a walk alone. The sun was setting and the sky was orange and pink. He walked to a small park near his house. He sat on a bench and looked up at the sky. A little girl ran past him, holding her mother's hand. The mother laughed and kissed the child's forehead. James's heart ached. He had always dreamed of having a family with Diep. He saw that dream slipping away. He picked up his phone and typed a message to Diep. "I miss you," he wrote. But he didn't press send. He stared at the words, then slowly deleted them. He felt like he had lost the right to miss her. He had left her. He had broken her heart. And now, he didn't know how to fix it. Back at work, James became quieter. His employees noticed the change. He didn't smile as much. He stayed in his office longer. During meetings, his mind often wandered. One of his close assistants asked him if he was okay. James just nodded. But inside, he was hurting. He felt like something important was missing from his life. Meanwhile, Diep was also hurting. She stayed quiet just like James. She didn't go out much. She didn't talk to her friends. She didn't cry in public, but her heart was full of pain. She didn't hate James. In fact, she still loved him. But she felt tired of fighting for his time and attention. She had given him her love, her care, her heart, but in the end, he walked away. Sometimes, she would pick up her phone and look at old photos of them together. She remembered the good days, the small picnics, the movie nights, the long phone calls. She missed him, but she also wanted peace. She didn't know if she would ever get it with James. So she stayed quiet. James kept checking his phone every day. Every time it buzzed, his heart jumped. But it was never Diep. It was always work or family. He began to wonder. Did she still think of him? Did she miss him? Was she okay? One night, James stood in front of his mirror. He looked at himself. His eyes looked tired. His face looked older. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" He realized that success, money, and respect meant nothing if he didn't have someone to share it with. And the only person he wanted was Diep. He thought about calling her, but fear stopped him. What if she didn't want to hear from him? What if she had moved on? What if she was happier without him? As the days went on, the pain didn't go away. It stayed with James like a shadow. Every morning, he woke up hoping for a message from her. Every night, he went to bed wishing he could turn back time. But Diep's silence continued. At a family dinner one weekend, James's mother asked him why he looked so sad. It was the first time someone noticed. He didn't answer. He just said, "I'm tired." His mother reached out and touched his hand. "You don't look tired. You look heartbroken." Those words hit James hard. Tears came to his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. He got up from the table and went to his room. That night, he finally allowed himself to cry. He cried for everything. For the lost time, the broken heart, and the girl he still loved. Days turned into weeks. James didn't know what to do. Should he wait for Diep? Should he try to reach her again? Or should he let her go for real? His heart was full of questions, and the silence between them was growing louder. One day, James went back to the coffee shop where he last saw Diep. He sat at the same table. He ordered the same coffee. He looked at the door, hoping she would walk in. But she didn't. Still, he stayed for hours just in case. As he sat there, he wrote in his journal, "I don't know if I still have a place in her heart, but I know she will always have a place in mine. I miss her more than words can say." That was the truth. And for now, that was all he had. James sat at his office desk, staring out the window. The sun was shining, but he didn't feel warm inside. His heart felt cold and heavy. The conversation with Diep the night before kept playing in his mind. She had said she didn't trust him anymore. Those words hurt him deeply. He never wanted to hurt her, but it was happening anyway. He picked up his phone many times to call her, but each time he put it down. What could he say? How could he fix something that was already broken? James was used to solving business problems, but this was different. This was love. This was emotion. And he didn't know how to handle it. Diep, on the other side of the city, sat quietly on her bed. She hadn't slept much. Her eyes were red from crying. Her heart was full of pain and confusion. She loved James, but she didn't feel close to him anymore. It was like he had built a wall between them, and she didn't know how to break it down. She opened a photo album on her phone. Picture after picture of them smiling together. On the beach, at restaurants, holding hands in the park. She smiled at the memories, but tears fell down her face. Where had that happiness gone? Why did everything feel so cold now? Days passed, but James and Diep didn't speak. They missed each other terribly, but both were too hurt and too proud to reach out. James thought maybe she needs time. Diep thought if he really cared, he would come find me. At the office, James's assistant, Clara, noticed he wasn't himself. He looked tired. He worked late into the night. He didn't smile anymore. Clara knocked on his door one day and gently asked, "Is everything all right, sir?" James looked at her, surprised. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm fine, Clara. Just busy," he said. But Clara didn't believe him. She had worked with James for many years. She knew when something was wrong. She quietly left the room, thinking he's hurting. "I hope he talks to someone before it's too late." Meanwhile, Diep went back to work too, but her heart wasn't in it. She answered emails, attended meetings, and smiled politely. But her thoughts were always with James. She wondered what he was doing. Was he thinking about her? Or had he already moved on? One night, she sat with her friend Lily at a cafe. Lily could tell Diep was not okay. After listening to her for a long time, Lily said softly, "Diep, if you still love him, talk to him. Don't wait for him to make the first move. Love is not a game." Diep looked down at her cup of tea. "I'm scared, Lily. What if he doesn't want me anymore?" Lily touched her hand and said, "Then at least you'll know. But if you stay silent, nothing will change." Back in his office, James stood in front of a mirror. He looked tired, older than usual. He missed Diep more than he could say. He had written her a message many times, but always deleted it. He was afraid too, afraid that she might not want him anymore. That night, James sat in his car outside Diep's building. He had driven there without thinking. Just seeing her apartment windows made him feel closer to her. He didn't go in. He didn't call. He just sat there in silence. He wanted her to open the window and look down, but she didn't. Upstairs, Diep sat near the window. She looked out at the city lights, unaware that James was right outside. Their hearts were calling each other, but their voices were silent. More days passed. Then one day something changed. James was at a charity event. He was giving a speech, but his heart wasn't in it. Suddenly, from across the room, he saw her, Diep, standing in a beautiful blue dress, looking as graceful as ever. His heart skipped a beat. She hadn't seen him yet. He watched her for a few seconds, then slowly walked toward her. Diep turned and saw him. Her eyes widened. Her heart began to race. For a moment, they both stood still, just looking at each other. So much pain, so much love, so many unsaid words between them. "Hi," James said softly. "Hi," Diep replied, her voice barely above a whisper. They stood in silence. Neither knew what to say next. Finally, James said, "Can we talk? Just for a few minutes." Diep looked at him. She saw the tiredness in his eyes, the sadness, the regret. She nodded slowly. "Yes, let's talk." They walked outside together under the soft evening lights, and for the first time in a long while, they began to speak. Not as CEO and partner, not as people trying to win, but as two hearts that still cared deeply. James looked at her and said, "I've made mistakes, Diep. I didn't mean to hurt you. I let work come between us, and I didn't know how to fix things." Diep looked down. Her voice shook as she replied, "I felt like you stopped seeing me. Like I wasn't part of your life anymore." "I never stopped seeing you," James said gently. "I just forgot how to show it. But I never stopped loving you." Diep's eyes filled with tears. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you too," he said. They didn't solve everything that night, but it was a beginning. The first step toward healing, toward understanding, toward rebuilding what they had lost. James sat in his big office. The room was quiet. Outside, the sun was shining. But inside James's heart, there was a heavy cloud. He looked out the window. The cars moved slowly on the road. People walked with smiles. But James could not smile. His mind was full of worry. He thought about Diep. Her face came to his mind again and again. He missed her voice, her laugh, and her kind eyes. He wanted to call her, but he could not. He felt ashamed. He had pushed her away. He had been cold. He had put work first. Now he was alone. James also thought about his company. The business was strong. Profits were growing. People respected him. But what was the point of success if his heart was empty? He had money, power, and fame, but he had no peace, no joy. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was Mark, James's assistant. "Sir," Mark said, "your mother is here." James was surprised. "My mother?" "Yes. She says it's urgent." James stood up quickly. "Let her in." His mother walked in. She was an older woman with kind eyes and a calm face. But today, her eyes were full of worry. "James," she said, "we need to talk." He offered her a seat and sat down beside her. "What is it, Mom?" She looked into his eyes. "I spoke to your sister, Anne. She told me everything. About Diep. About your silence. About how you've changed." James looked down. He felt like a child again. "James," she continued, "you are a strong man. But strength is not about hiding your feelings. It's not about pushing people away. You can have all the money in the world, but if you are alone in your heart, you are poor." James said nothing. He felt his throat tighten. "You love Diep," she said. "I see it in your eyes. I saw the way you looked at her when she came to our house." James nodded slowly. "Then why did you let her go?" He sighed. "I thought if I stayed away, I could protect her. My world is hard. Business is full of enemies. People try to hurt me. I didn't want her to be in danger." His mother took his hand. "But love is not about protection only. It's about walking through storms together. You were not protecting her. You were protecting yourself. From pain. From opening your heart." Her words hit him hard. He closed his eyes. "I'm scared, Mom," he whispered. "Scared of losing her. Scared of not being enough." She smiled gently. "Then you must be brave. Brave enough to tell her. Brave enough to feel again." There was silence for a moment. Then she stood up. "You still have time, but not forever. Don't wait too long, James." She kissed his forehead and left the room. James sat in his chair, heart beating fast. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "Be brave. Tell her." He stood up. He needed air. He walked out of the building and into the park nearby. The trees moved gently in the wind. Birds flew across the blue sky. Children laughed as they played. James sat on a bench. He took a deep breath. Memories of Diep filled his mind. Their first walk in the rain. Her hands in his. Her stories. Her dreams. The way she smiled when he made her coffee. The way she waited for him even when he came home late. She had been patient. She had been kind. And what had he done? He had given her silence, distance, fear. A voice inside him whispered, "Go to her." But another voice said, "What if she doesn't want you anymore?" He sat there for a long time, torn between hope and fear. Meanwhile, Diep was sitting in her room. She was looking out the window too. But her heart was not quiet. It was hurting. She held a small box in her hand. Inside was the necklace James had given her. It was simple but full of meaning. She touched it gently. She remembered the way James had looked at her, with eyes that saw her soul. She remembered the small things he did, how he brought her flowers without a reason, how he listened to her silly stories, how he smiled when she called him "my James." But all of that felt so far away now. She had not heard from him in weeks. Not a call, not a message. "Maybe he has moved on," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I was just a small part of his big life." But a small part of her still hoped, still believed in his love. Her phone buzzed. A message from Anne. "Hey, just talked to James's mom. I think something is changing." Diep stared at the message. Her heart skipped a beat. What does that mean, she thought. Is James thinking about me too? She didn't reply. She just sat there, holding the necklace, tears in her eyes. Back in the park, James finally stood up. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were clear. He had made his choice. He was going to see Diep. No more running. No more silence. He didn't know what she would say. He didn't know if she still loved him. But he had to try, because real love was worth the risk. He walked to his car. His heart was racing. The quiet before the storm was over. The next chapter was waiting, and James was ready to face it. James stood in front of Diep's house. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with soft orange and purple colors. His hands were cold. His heart was beating like a drum. He had practiced what to say all the way there. In the car, in the elevator, on the stairs. But now, standing at her door, all the words flew away. He took a deep breath and knocked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door slowly opened. Diep stood there. Her eyes were surprised. She didn't say a word. She just looked at him. She looked different, more quiet, more strong, but still the same Diep. James's voice came out softly. "Hi." She nodded. "Hi." They stood in silence. Then James took a step closer. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry for leaving you in the dark, for being afraid, for not telling you how much you mean to me." Diep didn't speak. "I was scared," James continued. "Scared of losing control, scared of being weak. But now I understand love is not weakness. Love is strength. And you made me stronger." Tears filled Diep's eyes, but she kept them back. "I missed you every day," he said. "I thought I was protecting you by staying away. But I was just hiding from what I really want. And what I want is a life with you." A tear rolled down her cheek. James stepped closer. His voice was shaking now. "I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if your heart still has space for me. But I had to come. Because the biggest mistake I could ever make is to never try again." Diep took a deep breath. Her lips trembled. "I waited," she whispered. "Every night I waited for a sign, for a call, for a word. But there was only silence." "I know," he said. "And I hate myself for that." She looked at him. "Why now?" "Because I finally realized what matters," he said. "And it's not the company, not the business deals. It's you, only you. There was another long pause. Then, slowly, Diep stepped forward. She reached out and took his hand. "I never stopped loving you," she said, "but I needed you to see it too." James let out a breath he had been holding for weeks. He pulled her into a hug, tight, warm, full of emotion. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. The war inside his heart was over. 1 month later, the sun was shining. Birds were singing. In the garden behind James's house, family and friends gathered. There were flowers everywhere. Laughter filled the air. James and Diep stood in the middle of it all, hand in hand. It was a small wedding, simple but full of love, and gave a speech that made everyone cry. James's mother smiled the whole time. Mark danced like no one was watching. And when James looked at Diep, he saw everything he had ever wanted: hope, peace, and love. They didn't need big promises, just the courage to keep choosing each other every day. After the cake, after the dance, after the guests had left, James and Diep sat on the grass, barefoot, holding hands. "You know," James said, "this is the happiest I've ever been." Diep smiled. "Me too." They looked up at the stars. So many, so bright. The night was quiet, but their hearts were full, and that was enough. Thank you for being part of this emotional journey with James and Diep. Their story reminds us that love is not perfect, but it's real. It's strong, and it's worth fighting for. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video to show your love. Comment your favorite moment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe for more beautiful love stories that touch your heart. Until next time, keep believing in love